The film opens in Gallipoli, Turkey, 4 years after a brutal war. A Turkish officer, Major Hassan, and his men approach an enemy bunker, ready to attack. But they realize they've been fooled. The bunker is empty, and the soldiers used carefully arranged rifles to make it look like a manned position from a distance. This ambush takes place during the historical Battle of Gallipoli, where the Turkish forces fought against the Anzac troops from Australia and New Zealand. 4 years later, the scene shifts to a hot, dry, and almost barren patch of land in Australia. We meet an old farmer named Joshua Connor. Joshua is a water diviner. He uses a divining rod to find underground water, a rare and precious commodity here. He returns home happily, having found a new water source. His wife, Eliza Connor, asks, "What took you so long? Don't you know the boys are waiting for their story?" Joshua begins reading Arabian Nights, but the room is empty. In a tragic past, Joshua and Eliza had 3 sons, Arthur, Henry, and Edward. All 3 were killed in the Gallipoli campaign 4 years earlier. Eliza has never recovered from the triple loss. She has suffered a mental breakdown and genuinely believes her sons are still alive. Joshua never tries to correct her. He has tried many times over the years, but logic is useless against grief. He simply tells her about his day. "I dug 15 feet and found water today." Eliza immediately counters, "You can find water, but you can't find your own sons?" Joshua doesn't answer. He too is crippled by grief, but he has accepted his fate. That night, Joshua falls asleep remembering happy times with his eldest son, Arthur. In a dream, he sees figures in white robes performing a whirling dance, a Sufi ritual known as the Sema. The next morning, Joshua wakes up and can't find Eliza. He searches frantically. Suddenly, he sees her body floating in a pond. Overwhelmed by the loss of her sons, Eliza has taken her own life. The loss of his wife, his last anchor, completely shatters Joshua. He holds her body and weeps, completely broken. After burying Eliza, Joshua makes an ironclad decision. He will travel to Gallipoli, find the remains of his 3 sons, and bring them home to be buried beside their mother. He immediately embarks on his journey. Meanwhile, in Gallipoli, Major Hassan and another officer revisit the peninsula, the land they fought fiercely to protect from the British forces. After a long 3-month sea voyage, Joshua arrives in Istanbul, Turkey. As soon as he disembarks, he is surrounded by eager locals, trying to get him to stay at their hotels. A young boy named Orhan is especially persistent. Joshua wants to go straight to Gallipoli, but Orhan won't leave him alone. Joshua speaks to a British War Office worker and learns that Gallipoli is now a restricted military zone. He needs an official permit to go there. Moments later, Orhan grabs Joshua's bag and runs. Thinking he is a thief, Joshua chases him angrily, only to find the boy waiting patiently with the bag outside his family's hotel. Realizing he needs a place to stay while he sorts out his permit, Joshua follows Orhan inside. He meets Aisha, Orhan's mother and the hotel's owner. Aish is initially hesitant to rent him a room because he is Australian, their former enemy. However, Orhan's uncle, Omar, grants Joshua permission to stay. Joshua asks Orhan, "Can you take me to the War Office? I will pay you." Later, Aisha comes to Joshua's room. After some small talk, she suggests he visit the beautiful Blue Mosque. Joshua's response is curt, "I didn't come here to see mosques. I came here to find my 3 sons." Aisha sadly warns him, "There is nothing left in Gallipoli, only thousands of skeletons." The next day, Joshua goes to the War Office and shows an officer a photograph of his sons, pleading to be allowed passage to Gallipoli. The officer is blunt. "What do you think you will find after all these years? The ground is nothing but a mixture of skeletons of soldiers, horses, and mules." Disheartened, Joshua leaves. Orhan then takes him to the Blue Mosque. Joshua is stunned by the architecture and feels a sudden, profound peace wash over him. At breakfast the following morning, Joshua asks Aisha how he can get to Gallipoli without a permit. She tells him that while official access is blocked, it is possible to hire a fisherman to sneak him onto the peninsula illegally for a good price. This news ignites a new hope in Joshua. As Joshua prepares to leave, Orhan runs up to him, holding a picture of his own father. The boy begs, "If you find your sons, can you please look for my father too? He never came home from the war. Tell him to come back." Joshua is momentarily shocked. The small boy doesn't know his father was killed in Gallipoli. To spare the child pain, Joshua takes the picture and promises, "I certainly will." He then hires a boat and sets off for Gallipoli. Joshua is immediately caught by British soldiers upon landing. He is taken to the British officer in charge, who tells him the same thing. There are 8 square miles of bunkers and thousands of corpses strewn everywhere. How will you find your son among them? Leave now, or we will have to take action. You entered a restricted zone illegally, but a father's love defies all logic. Joshua refuses to leave. He spends the night alone, building a small fire by the sea. The next day, Major Hassan approaches the British officer. He tells him to help Joshua, reasoning, he is the only father who has come to look for his children after all these years. No one else has come from any other family. Moved by the plea, the British officer agrees to help. Everyone, including Hassan, the British officer, and their men, begins searching the battlefield with Joshua. In a flashback, Joshua's memory flashes to the Battle of Gallipoli. Arthur, the eldest, is hit by a landmine and severely wounded. Despite Arthur's desperate pleas for them to leave him, his two younger brothers, Henry and Edward, rush to save him. The flashback ends as Henry and Edward are shot and fall beside their brother. Joshua feels an intuitive pull and knows where his sons lie. When they dig in that spot, they find the remains of Henry and Edward, identified by lockets around their necks. Suddenly, a soldier approaches Joshua, angry and bitter. He tells the grieving father, "You know who is responsible for this slaughter? Major Hassan and his men are responsible." Joshua has finally found two of his sons, but now, consumed by rage, he lunges at Major Hassan. The other soldiers quickly restrain him and take him back to the tent. The officer advises Joshua to bury his sons with dignity there instead of taking them back to Australia. Joshua agrees. Who is left for him in Australia anyway? His wife is dead. He buries his two sons on the island. The following day, Major Hassan shows Joshua a list of soldiers who may still be alive and mentions that Arthur's name is on it. He explains that the men on this list may have been taken prisoner and could be alive in a Turkish prison camp. Joshua is overjoyed. His son is alive. A renewed sense of hope floods his life, and he returns to the hotel. Major Hassan goes to the British office to ask for military aid, as the Greeks are still fighting and launching attacks. Joshua arrives and asks Hassan for help in finding Arthur. Hassan, already frustrated by the war situation, angrily refuses and leaves. The British officer then confiscates Joshua's passport, saying, "You will be punished for entering Gallipoli illegally. On Thursday, come back here to collect your ticket and passport, and you will be sent back home." Joshua is desperate. He chases Major Hassan, who leads him to a secret hideout. Joshua is immediately captured by the men there. His only obsession is getting information about the prison camp where Arthur is held. Hassan orders his men to take Joshua back to the hotel. However, he also tells Joshua that they are heading to the city of Ankara tomorrow, and the city of Afyon is on their route. He promises, "I will try to find any news about Arthur." Hassan, a father himself, deeply understands Joshua's pain. That night, the two men talk for hours and form a deep bond of friendship. Joshua returns to the hotel for his belongings. Aishi approaches him and sincerely apologizes for her initial harshness. She begs him not to leave. Joshua decides to stay. Lying in bed, Joshua thinks about the past and drifts to sleep. He has the same dream as before, seeing a healthy Arthur in white robes. He is suddenly awakened by the sounds of the British officers who have come to send him back to Australia. Joshua is determined to join Major Hassan to search for Arthur. Aishi helps him hide and escape from the British soldiers. Joshua manages to reach Major Hassan, and the next day, they board a train heading for Ankara. On the way, Hassan spots a fire in a nearby village. He realizes Greek soldiers are nearby. Moments later, the Greek soldiers attack the train. They see Joshua is Australian and leave him alone, but they seize Major Hassan and drag him off the train. Just as the Greek soldiers prepare to kill Hassan, Joshua intervenes and saves him. They steal a horse and ride towards Afyon. Upon reaching Afyon, they see villagers fleeing from the Greeks. Joshua notices a windmill. He is certain this is his son Arthur's work, as Arthur was skilled at building and using windmills. Major Hassan asks the locals about the windmill's builder and learns that the artist is none other than Arthur. He is alive and working in the village church. They rush to the church. After all these years, Joshua finally finds his son Arthur alive. Father and son embrace, overjoyed and stunned. Arthur is happy, but wears an expression of deep guilt and regret. He tearfully confesses that he failed to keep his promise to protect his brothers. He explains the events of the battle. Henry and Edward were shot and fell on the battlefield. Henry died instantly, but Edward was still alive, severely wounded and in terrible agony. Edward looked up at Arthur and desperately begged his older brother to kill him to end the pain. Arthur was heartbroken, but he was forced to put the pistol to Edward's head and pull the trigger. He made this painful choice to save his brother from the unbearable pain and the fear of being captured and tortured by the enemy. Arthur reveals that since that day, he has been consumed by guilt and remorse. He deliberately didn't return home because he couldn't face his father, knowing he had shot his own brother. Joshua listens to the whole confession and, with a choked voice, says, "The fault is not yours, son. The fault is mine." Suddenly, the Greek soldiers arrive. Joshua and Hassan share a final, tight embrace. Hassan leaves quickly for Ankara. Arthur then leads his father to a mountain, knowing an escape route. Greek soldiers chase them up the mountain. Arthur finds a man-made drain that flows into a river. He gives Joshua precise instructions on where to jump. But Joshua refuses to leave his son behind. With a sad expression, he says, "What is the point of going back, Arthur? You are all I have left. If you don't come, there is no point in my leaving. I will not abandon you." Hearing his father's words, Arthur realizes he cannot abandon his father either. He immediately decides to return home with him. They both jump into the drain and successfully escape. The next day, they return to the hotel. Orhan rushes to Joshua and embraces him happily. Later, Joshua sits at the dining table. Aishi brings him coffee, and he finds it incredibly sweet. He realizes that Aishi has developed feelings for him. Based on a true story, the movie ends here. If you want more epic recaps like this one, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments which historical movie should I cover next.